My mother-in-law thought she was clever when she stole my daughter's $93,000 diamond tiara and sold it to fund her ego, but she had no idea what I was about to seize from her. I stood in the back of the room with a calm smile, knowing that by the time she finished her opening speech, she would be begging for my help. Before that, tell us where you're watching from and what time it is there right now, and please subscribe to this channel so that my stories can reach more people. For 10 years, I was the human ATM for a family that didn't share my blood or my work ethic. I worked 80-hour weeks as a tech executive, trading my sleep and my youth for their comfort. I didn't mind at first. I believed in the lie that family is everything. Elena, darling, the country club raised their annual dues again, Martha said last month, casually sliding a 5-figure bill across the marble island I had paid for. She didn't look at me. She was too busy admiring her fresh Botox in the reflection of her wine glass. I'll handle it, Martha, I replied. My voice was calm, as always. Thanks, babe, my husband David added, not looking up from his gaming console. Mom deserves the best after everything she went through when Dad died. I nodded, feeling that familiar pinch in my chest. I was the one providing the best, yet I was treated like a silent ghost in my own home. My only connection to my real family, the one that actually loved me, was my grandmother's diamond tiara. It was worth $93,000, but to me, it was priceless. It sat in my bedroom safe, a sparkling reminder that I came from somewhere better than this. Or so I thought. I checked the safe this morning to ensure the tiara was ready for the upcoming gala. My heart sank. The velvet box was there, and the tiara was inside. But the weight was off. It felt like a lead brick in my hand. Mom? Why does your crown look so dull? I looked up. My 8-year-old daughter, Maya, was standing in the doorway. She was holding her young chemist magnifying glass. She walked over and squinted at the tiara. It's just the lighting, honey, I lied. My voice was steady, but my blood was beginning to simmer. No, Maya insisted, leaning in. Diamonds have a high refractive index. They shouldn't have rainbow flashes this big. This looks like the cubic zirconia from my kit. I looked at my daughter. She was brilliant, observant, and far more honest than the adults in this house. Are you sure, Maya? I asked. 100%, she said, her small face serious. Grandma Martha was in here yesterday while you were at the office. She said she was checking the humidity in your closet, but she had a big velvet bag with her. The betrayal finally had a face. Martha hadn't just dipped into my bank account, she had walked into my sanctuary and stolen my history. Thank you, Maya, I said, kissing her forehead. How would you like to help me with a very special science project for Grandma's gala? Is it a surprise? She asked, her eyes lighting up. Oh, I said, a cold smile finally touching my lips. It's going to be the biggest surprise of her life. Maya went back to her room to play, but I sat in the silence of my bedroom, dialing the one person I knew could find the paper trail I needed. I need to know where Martha was on Tuesday afternoon, I told my private investigator, Marcus. Check the local high-end jewelers and private collectors. Look for a sale involving a 1920s diamond tiara. 48 hours later, the email arrived. It was worse than I thought. Martha hadn't just sold it. She had haggled. She sold my grandmother's legacy for $85,000 to a collector in the city. The receipt showed she had used the funds immediately to pay for the diamond sponsorship tier for her Socialite of the Year gala. That evening, I walked into the dining room. Martha was holding a glass of expensive Chardonnay, paid for by me, and looking at a seating chart. Elena, dear, she chirped without looking up, you're looking a bit haggard. You should really work less. It's embarrassing for a family of our status to have a daughter-in-law who looks so tired. I pulled out my chair and sat down, my movements precise. You're right, Martha. I've been carrying a lot of unnecessary weight lately, but don't worry. From now on, things are going to look very different. David chuckled from the head of the table. See, Mom? I told you she just needed a push. Family is about looking out for each other. Exactly, David, I said, looking him dead in the eye. And I'm going to make sure everyone gets exactly what they deserve. The confirmation of Martha's theft stayed heavy in my chest as I watched her sip that Chardonnay, her jewelry glinting under my chandelier. I didn't need to yell. I needed a catalyst. Saturday morning, I locked the door to my home office. Maya was already there, her safety goggles pushed up onto her forehead. On the desk sat 2 items: Martha's favorite $40,000 diamond necklace, which I had borrowed from her vanity while she was at her hair appointment, and a perfect $50 replica I had ordered overnight. "Ready for the experiment, Mom?" Maya asked, holding a small dropper filled with a clear liquid. "Ready," I replied. I watched with professional detachment as she carefully coated the fake stones with a phosphor reactant solution I'd sourced from a lab contact. To the naked eye, the necklace was stunning. It looked exactly like the original. "When the high-intensity UV stage lights hit this," Maya explained, her voice full of scientific pride, "the electrons in the coating will jump. It won't just glow, it'll create a localized thermal reaction with the solution. It'll smoke, Mom. A lot." "Will it hurt her?" I asked. "I am an alpha, not a criminal." "No. It just smells like burnt rubber and looks like a disaster," she chirped. I picked up the fake necklace. It felt light. Cheap. Just like Martha's loyalty. I swapped it into her original velvet box and hid the real diamonds in my safe. "Is this for Grandma's big night?" Maya whispered. "Yes, honey," I said, my voice as cold as the stones I'd lost. "She wants to be the star of the show. We're just making sure she shines brighter than anyone else." The neon green solution Maya and I had prepared was dry, its chemical trap invisible to the naked eye. As we pulled up to the grand ballroom, the flashing cameras of the local press caught Martha in her element. She was draped in white silk, preening for the photographers as if she had earned her place there through anything other than my bank account. "You look breathtaking, Martha," I said, my voice smooth and controlled. "Of course I do, Elena," she snapped, checking her reflection in the tinted car window. "Though I wish you'd worn something more substantial. You look like a secretary." I didn't blink. "It's your night to shine, Martha. I wouldn't want to outdo you." We stepped into the backstage lounge. Martha was frantic, adjusting her hair and checking her diamond necklace. Before she could head to the wings, Maya ran up to her, her face a mask of childhood innocence. "Grandma, wait," Maya cried, reaching up. "Your necklace is crooked. Let me fix the clasp for you." Martha sighed, leaning down with an impatient huff. "Quickly, child. I have a speech to give. Important people are waiting." Maya's hands moved with the speed of a professional. In 3 seconds, she unhooked the real diamonds and snapped the tainted replica around Martha's neck. She tucked the real necklace into her small beaded purse and stepped back, beaming. "There. Now it's perfect," Maya said. Martha didn't even look at her. She just patted her hair and turned toward the stage. "Go sit down, child. Grown-ups are talking now." Maya looked at me, a small knowing smirk playing on her lips. I squeezed her hand. The trap was set, and the stage was literally waiting to explode. Maya's small, triumphant wink was still visible in my mind as I led her to our front row seats. I sat down and crossed my legs, the silk of my dress cool against my skin. I felt a strange, icy calm. Beside me, David was busy scrolling through his phone, completely oblivious to the fact that his mother was about to become a local legend for all the wrong reasons. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer boomed, "our Socialite of the Year, Martha Hastings." The room erupted in applause. Martha floated onto the stage, her chin held high, the diamonds around her neck catching the standard yellow spotlights. She looked every bit the queen she imagined herself to be. She stepped behind the podium and adjusted the microphone. "Charity," Martha began, her voice dripping with fake humility, "is about more than just money. It is about integrity. It is about the legacy we leave behind." I leaned back. "Watch closely, David," I whispered. "This is the best part." On cue, the stage manager triggered the grand finale lighting. The warm yellow faded and the high-intensity UV show lights flooded the stage to create a dramatic violet glow. The reaction was instant. The stones around Martha's neck didn't sparkle. They ignited into a piercing, radioactive neon green that looked like something out of a horror movie. A second later, a thick, acrid cloud of white smoke began to pour from the necklace, billowing up into her face. "Oh my God! She's on fire!" A woman in the second row screamed. Martha shrieked, batting at her chest as the smoke engulfed her. The diamonds glowed brighter and brighter, turning her expensive white gown a sickly, luminous lime. The socialite of the year was standing in the center of a toxic-looking cloud, looking less like a queen and more like a radioactive disaster. The room fell into a horrified, judgmental silence. The trap hadn't just sprung, it had consumed her. The sight of Martha coughing inside a cloud of neon green smoke was the most honest she had looked in years. While the rest of the room froze in shock, I moved. I didn't run. I glided onto the stage with the practiced urgency of someone who knew exactly how this scene would end. "Martha! Oh my God, stay still!" I cried out. My voice was loud enough to carry through the microphone she had left keyed on. I reached her just as she was frantically clawing at her throat. I accidentally knocked the podium's microphone stand, ensuring every word I said echoed through the ballroom speakers. "The jewelry! It's the jewelry!" I shouted, grabbing the glowing necklace. With a sharp tug, the cheap wire snapped, and the stones clattered onto the stage floor, leaving dark, oily green stains on her $5,000 white silk gown. "What is happening?" Martha shrieked, her face streaked with soot and ruined makeup. "Martha, this is a lead-filled replica," I said, my voice full of horror for the audience to hear. "Only cheap fakes from the black market react to UV lights like this. They use phosphorus to hide the lack of clarity. It's dangerous." I looked out at the crowd of donors and city elites. Their faces had shifted from concern to pure, unadulterated disgust. "Where is the real necklace, Martha?" I asked, my voice dropping to a sharp, cold whisper that the microphone still caught perfectly. "Did you sell that one too? Just like you sold my grandmother's tiara?" Martha's mouth fell open, but no sound came out. She looked at the green stains on her dress, then at the glowing trash at her feet. The socialite of the year was gone. In her place stood a thief who had been caught in the most public way possible. The silence in the ballroom was the most expensive thing I had ever bought. Martha stood there, a ruined monument to her own greed, while David sat frozen in the front row. I didn't wait for the fallout to settle. I walked off that stage, took Maya's hand, and drove us home. An hour later, Martha slammed through the front door, David trailing behind her like a kicked dog. She was still covered in green chemical stains, her face a mask of pure rage. "You ruined me!" she shrieked, her voice cracking. "I'll sue you for everything. You staged that. You humiliated me in front of the entire city." I was sitting in my armchair, a folder of documents resting on my lap. I didn't get up. I didn't even raise my voice. "Actually, Martha," I said, my voice cutting through her hysteria like a blade, "I didn't ruin you. Your own theft did that. But let's talk about legalities." I threw the folder onto the coffee table. "This house? I bought the mortgage from the bank 6 months ago when you forgot to pay. It's in my name. David? Your business account? It's a sub-account of my corporation. I closed it 10 minutes ago." David gasped, finally finding his voice. "Elena, you can't be serious. We're family." "Family doesn't steal heirlooms to fund a fake lifestyle," I replied, looking at Martha. "I have the PI's report and the sales receipt for the tiara. You have until 8 a.m. to return my grandmother's property to this house. If it isn't here, I'm calling the police. And by 9 a.m., I want you both moved out." "You can't throw us out," Martha cried, her voice turning into a desperate sob. "I can," I said, leaning forward. "Because in this house, I'm no longer the ATM. I'm the owner. And your credit has just expired." The high-definition glow of the living room lights felt clinical, exposing every green smudge on Martha's neck. She looked at David, then back at me, her eyes filling with forced, practiced tears. This was the moment I had anticipated. the shift from rage to the victim card. "Elena, please," she sobbed, sinking to her knees on the expensive rug I had paid for. "I made a mistake. I was just trying to secure our family's legacy. If I won that award, the doors that would open for us, for Maya." "Don't bring my daughter into this," I said. My voice was a flat line. "You didn't do it for her. You did it for a title that you tried to buy with my stolen property." David stepped forward, reaching for my hand. I pulled it back before he could touch me. "Babe, come on. She's an old woman. You're really going to put your husband's mother on the street? Over a piece of jewelry? Is that who you are?" I looked at the man I had supported for a decade. He wasn't a partner. He was a symptom of the same parasitic infection. "I'm not putting her on the street, David. I'm putting her into the reality she created," I replied. "And as for you, I didn't just marry a man. I financed a lifestyle for a ghost. You watched her insult me for years and said nothing as long as the checks cleared." "You're heartless," Martha wailed, her voice hitting a pathetic high note. "I raised the man you love. You owe me for that alone." I stood up, closing the folder with a sharp snap. "I paid that debt back 10 times over. I bought your respect, and it turned out to be as fake as that necklace. I'm done paying for people who only love me when my hands are open." The morning sun hit the penthouse windows, filling my new living room with a clarity that Martha's mansion never had. There were no voices shouting for favors, no hum of a gaming console, and no heavy air of ungrateful expectations. It was just me, Maya, and the quiet sound of a fresh start. I sat at the kitchen island, sipping a coffee I had made for myself. On the marble counter sat my grandmother's tiara. It had been returned at 7:45 a.m. sharp, delivered by a trembling David, while Martha waited in a taxi filled with trash bags. The private collector hadn't wanted the scandal associated with it and was happy to take his money back. "It looks real again, Mom," Maya said, walking in with her backpack on. She leaned over and watched the sunlight hit the diamonds. They threw sharp, brilliant white sparks across the ceiling. No neon green, no smoke. Just pure, honest light. "That's because it is, honey," I said, smoothing her hair. I heard that David had moved into Martha's new studio apartment. Without my income, the Socialite of the Year was now the subject of the month in every local gossip column. Her donors had demanded their money back, and her name was Mud. They were facing the reality they had built with their own hands, and for the first time in 10 years, their bills were no longer my problem. I checked my watch. I had a board meeting in an hour. I wasn't looking tired or embarrassing the family. I was exactly where I was meant to be. I realized then that I hadn't lost $500,000 over the last decade. I had simply paid the world's most expensive tuition to learn one final lesson. You can't build a future with people who are still busy stealing your past. I picked up the tiara, placed it back in its box, and locked the safe. The game was over. I had won. If you loved my story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It inspires us to share more such stories with you.